It's going to be sourdough bread with some assistance from yeast. And this is my sourdough starter. I just recently fed it because I poured about 1/3 cup into this mixing bowl, and then I refreshed it with 1/2 cup of flour and 1/2 cup of water to bring it back up to the top of the jar. You can leave it sitting out for a little while and it can catch some yeast from the air, or cover it. I store mine in the refrigerator and I try to feed it every week. That would take discarding some of it and putting fresh flour and water in it, or using it to make bread. What I like to do is have some yeast. I used 1/2 packet of yeast with water. It's already fluffed up a little bit, so it's about 1/3 cup of water and some sugar, about 1/2 teaspoon. We have our sourdough here in this medium-sized mixing bowl, and I'm getting ready to add some flour to it. We'll just use our flour and add some to it. I'm going to add 2 cups, and I'm using my 1/2 cup measure. So there's 1/2 cup, that's 1 cup, 1/2 cup, another 1/2 cup. We'll need some salt to go into it. So I've got my salt in this jar. I bought this box of kosher salt. It is salt flakes, and that's what I've been using, and it's just easier for me just to store it in a jar. We've got our 1/3 cup of sourdough starter, 2 cups of flour, and I'm going to add 1.5 teaspoons of salt flakes. So we have 1 teaspoon. And our yeast and sugar water mixture has already gotten bubbly. It's been sitting for about 10 minutes. We're just going to pour that on top. I'm actually going to stir the salt in first, and then we're going to pour it on top, and we'll give it a good mix. We may need to add a little bit more water, but I like to start with it like this and see just how much more water we need. We're going to get it into a shaggy ball. And you can see right now it's still too dry to come together as a ball. So we're going to add some more water, and it's going to be lukewarm water. I got about 1/3. I'm just going to pour some of it in there. Maybe a couple of tablespoons, and stir. Still has a few dry bits. I want it to be a little more moist. I'm going to pour about another tablespoon in. After you do this a bit, you'll get used to the texture of the bread and where you want it to be. It's sticking together. I still would like it to be a little more moist. I can still see a few bits of dry flour in the bottom. So we'll go with our last tablespoon. You probably know by now I'm not a precise measuring person, which can be a little daunting when you're doing bread and baked goods. So we're going to go with it for now. Now you can see that it's really got kind of a watery appearance on the outside of the dough. You can still see some moisture shining on the edge of the bowl. And I'm going to wash my hand real quick and just grab the dough. Right now it's not going to want to stretch because the gluten hasn't been activated that much, but you'll see it's really sticky. And that seems just about right to me. I'm just going to put it in as much of a ball as I can, scraping all that down from the edge. We're going to let it rest. It's going to rest for 45 minutes, covered with a towel. Our timer has gone off. It's been 45 minutes, and you'll see that it's risen, and that's mainly because it's the yeast-assisted sourdough. And then I'm going to moisten my hand, and we're going to stretch the dough. And you'll just tuck in and stretch. Rotate and stretch. Now this would be a more than 1 day process if it was just my sourdough doing this. So I'm speeding up the process so I can have bread with dinner tonight. And it's still not as stretchy as it's going to be, but you can see it's stretchier than it was when we first began. I'll stretch it one more time. So we have it back into a ball shape. And we're going to cover it up and let it rest again for 45 minutes. Hey, it's been a bit more than 45 minutes because I took a nap, and you can see it's gigantic. So no problem, I'm gonna wet my hand and we're gonna punch it down. We're going to do the same thing we did last time. We're going to get it into a ball and we're going to stretch it. See how much more stretchy it has gotten? I'm going to let it go another 45 minutes. After this next 45 minutes, we'll stretch it again and put it in our pan. On goes the towel for 45 minutes. Our timer's gone off for 45 minutes. And you can see it's risen again. I'm going to set it off to the side. This is the pan I'm going to bake it in. I'm just going to put a little bit of olive oil in the pan. Just about 1/4 of a teaspoon. I'm just going to rub that all around. Then I'm going to moisten my hand with some water. And kind of punch it down a little bit again. See how nice and stretchy it's gotten. I'm just going to gather it up as much as I can and just lay it in here. It's still sticking to my hands a little bit. Not too horrible. I'm just going to press it down so it fills the pan. I am going to moisten my hand a little bit more so I can press it down without it sticking to me. It's fully spread in the pan. We're going to cover it back up and set it off to the side. And meanwhile, I have another pan where I use this to put water in it. And when I'm heating my oven up, before I put the bread in for about 5 minutes, I will put that in there and let the water heat up so it will steam up my oven. Like I said, this is rising for 45 minutes. So in about 30 minutes, I'm going to turn on my oven to 450 degrees Fahrenheit and let it heat up and put this pan with about 1.5 inches of water in it. So we just have a little bit more waiting to do. Our oven just said it was preheated, so we're going to put in this pan of water. I'm going to put it down on the bottom rack and just let it heat up for about 5 minutes. And then we'll put our bread in. Let's uncover the loaf. Looks pretty good, and I'm going to attempt to slash it across the top. No promises how sharp my knife is. I usually don't have much luck doing this, as you can see. In we go. When 15 minutes goes off, I'm going to lower the oven to 375 and then let it bake for another 15 or 20 minutes at 375. Our timer's gone off, and we're going to reduce the heat on our bake to 375. Our timer just went off, and let's check and see if the bread's ready. Looks done. You can see how it kind of bulged where I tried to slice it with my not sharp enough knife. Sounds nice and let's knock on the bottom. Sounds nice and hollow. What I love about a sourdough loaf is its very crispy exterior. And while this isn't a traditional sourdough loaf because it's yeast assisted, it's still going to have a wonderful sourdough flavor from using our sourdough starter. But it does need to cool for a while, and we will slice it once it has had a chance to cool. We don't want to slice it when it's just out of the oven. Let's slice this bread up.